recent Las Vegas money show Traders Expo, Bobby Lee, founder and CEO of crypto cold storage company Ballet, participated in a panel on the best alternative investments of 2024 to talk about Bitcoin.
So whether it's a global real estate market over $100-200 trillion, or it's a global equities market, bond market, and so on, these are all $100 trillion classes, asset classes. And gold is $15-20 trillion. Bitcoin is just crossed 1 trillion. How much does it take for it to go from 1 trillion to 5 trillion? It happened in a blip. And I'm talking about blip as in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And that means Bitcoin will go to $250,000.
Since then, the benchmark cryptocurrency soared to, and briefly through, its all-time high around $69,000. Now I'm excited to share my conversation with Bobby that followed his panel discussion. In it, we dive deeper into his background and hear why he sees a bright future for Bitcoin.
For people who don't know, why don't you talk a little bit about your background and how you first got involved with the crypto space?
Sure. So I have a tech background. I studied computer science at Stanford. So all through high school, college, I was into math and sciences and all that. And then, of course, after graduating at Stanford, I got into the internet industry. So during the .com, right before the .com boom, joined Yahoo. And stayed with a few tech companies. I also then moved to China, so worked in tech in China as well as in Silicon Valley in the US. And then about 13 years ago in 2011, I discovered Bitcoin. So my brother brought that to my attention. And as an investor, so prior to getting tech, I myself, an investor, started trading stocks when I was a young age, learned the value of gold through my father and grandfather. So Bitcoin, and given my tech background, Bitcoin immediately became something that was appealing and made sense to me. It clicked. For a lot of people, if you don't have the right background, the tech background or the economics or the finance background, it may not be as exciting. But even in 2011, Bitcoin was very exciting. I started mining it, and regretfully, I didn't invest in it in 2011. I started buying it in more like 2013. Okay. But it's never too late, right? So I've been a Bitcoin investor for the last 10 plus years, and I also got into it from an entrepreneur perspective. I started the very first Bitcoin exchange in China called BTC China. So I was a co-founder and CEO, and I sold that company 5 years later, and now I'm with a new company called Ballet. So we do crypto cold storage. So I'm a second-time entrepreneur and also a author. I'm an author of the Wall Street Journal bestseller called The Promise of Bitcoin. It was published 3-4 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago, actually.
Excellent. Now let's talk a little bit about the Bitcoin and crypto space then versus now. I mean, how, from your first-hand perspective, how have things changed? And what kind of developments do you see now that are most exciting to you?
Yeah, in the early days, it was just hobbyists and enthusiasts, people who are mining Bitcoin, looking to buy and sell. So they would sell the Bitcoin to pay for the electricity and so on, and casual investors would buy it, and then you could use Bitcoin to pay for things online, right? So that was, I would describe that as the first 5 years of Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been now out for 15 years. The second 5 years is a lot of trading, a lot of speculative trading. So that's the advent of trading on margin, futures contracts, a lot of these perpetual swaps. So we've had a few boom and bust cycles with a lot of trading in mind. And then I would say the last 5 years, it's been the maturation of Bitcoin, where now we're getting institutional sort of eyes on it, focus on it. For the first time, just the last 2 years, now we have companies like MicroStrategy, we have Tesla. They're actually buying Bitcoin on their corporate balance sheet. And individuals have been doing that for a long time, for the last 10, 15 years, but the companies have only started doing that for the last 5 years. And MicroStrategy being one of the big names, and now we recently had the passage of the spot Bitcoin ETF. So now investors in the US with access to the capital market and equities brokerage firms in the US can now just easily buy Bitcoin ETFs, and they could buy it for the retirement IRA accounts, they could buy it for the regular brokerage account, and it's managed and there's a management fee and so on. I would say, this is where it's going. Bitcoin is going to become a global reserve asset class. So today, it just recently crossed $50,000, meaning it crossed about 1 trillion in total market value, which is really not a lot. Okay, 1 trillion for
we think it's a big number, but yes, in the global scheme of things.
In global scheme of things, it's not, right? So you have, how much US dollars circulation, how much the total global equities market, real estate market. So we're talking about hundreds of trillions for those asset classes. So I think Bitcoin has at least 10, 15, 20x to go just probably in the next 3 to 8 years. And then 10 years out, I think it'll easily go into the 50 to 100 trillion dollar sort of value. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit more, because it's in the news, about the ETF process.
Yeah.
I mean, is it going to be a harder educational process and harder to sell to fiduciaries, to investment advisors, and even to individuals than say, hey, you know about gold, you've known about gold for 100 years, here's a gold ETF, or you know about stocks for all this time, here's a stock ETF.
It's so the issue is this. So when we invest in gold, we aren't necessarily chemistry PhD graduates, right? So you don't have to know all the ionization, all the molecule, whatever, of gold, all the, not molecule, but the atom structure, subatomic structure of gold, right? So we leave that to the scientists. Same thing with Bitcoin. You don't need to know all the nitty-gritty details, right? So the thing to know about Bitcoin is that two things. Number one is that it's limited. It's strictly limited. So Bitcoin was invented and created to be 21 million maximum units of Bitcoin. 21 million BTC, 21 million. And today we have 20 million in circulation, and there's only 1 million of additional circulation coming in, and the inflation rate is down to 3%, 2.5%, whatever. So that's going to take 100 years for the remaining 1 million to come out to the world. So that's number one. So it's very limited. Think about all the asset classes. Real estate not limited. Gold is not limited. It's scarce, but it's not limited. You could find an asteroid with gold on it, for example. Many other asset classes aren't strictly limited. In fact, the only asset class on Earth in human society that's truly limited is Bitcoin. If you think about it, right? Money we know for sure is not limited. You just keep printing and printing it, right? So Bitcoin is truly limited and is scientifically limited at 21 million. The second thing is Bitcoin, you hear about blockchain, decentralized, permissionless, all those things. What it really means is Bitcoin is freedom. It means that anyone can use Bitcoin, spend Bitcoin. Now you have to have some technical knowledge, how to receive it, have a wallet set up and all that. But other than that, there's no one, not the government, not a company, not the United Nations, not even the Security Council. No one can stop people transacting in Bitcoin freely. So I can send you Bitcoin, you can send me Bitcoin. You can send it to someone else halfway around the world. You can send it to pay for a car, or someone can send you Bitcoin as payment, right? For example, 6 years ago, I was on a speaking circuit, and instead of paying me speaking fees via bank transfer, which some companies did, some others chose to send it to me in Bitcoin. Okay. And that was very fast and simple.
Okay. Yeah. Now, you've described yourself, I guess, as a Bitcoin maximalist, right? But obviously people want to know about other developments, other cryptocurrencies, Ethereum, yes. Dogecoin for that matter. I mean,
yes.
What are your thoughts on some of the other things going on there in the space that people can invest in?
I would liken it to, if you look at the precious metals market, there's many things. There's gold, there's silver, right? There's some people invest in uranium, they invest in rhodium, they invest in platinum, and they have different investment potential, return potential, and they have different ways to buy it and so on. Some have ETFs, some don't. Yeah. So I would say the overall crypto market is kind of like the overall sort of precious metals market. Right. So in my case, I'm a fan. I know about Bitcoin. Now, some people invest in Ethereum, some people invest in Dogecoin, Litecoin, or whatnot. And there's many choices. And some of the more obscure ones might even promise higher returns. But really, it's about doing the research and understanding it.
Okay. I guess one obvious question, especially given some of the fraud stuff that went on in scams, are we at the point where that, in your opinion, is mostly cleaned out of the system? And the second part of that would be, what do you think the government treatment of the crypto space is going to be like over the next couple of years?
Yeah, the fraud thing keeps happening. I think it's gonna go on for a little bit until we have true regulation all around the world in different countries. It harkens back to about 100 years ago, before the SEC was established. What was the SEC? The SEC was established to help Americans not get defrauded by these, snake oil salesmen selling, junk shares. Right? And we see a lot of that happening in the crypto market. People are creating coins out of thin air and selling it, Ponzi schemes, all these schemes, right? So it's happening in the crypto sphere. That's why the SEC, they're cracking down on the industry right now. But so far, there's no regulatory agency that has full jurisdiction. SEC was created to combat fraud in the securities era, starting 100 years ago, and now SEC is very mature. So I wrote this in my book, I made 15 predictions. I anticipate there will be a new regulatory agency that's really focused on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and that's going to put the stop to fraud. So, you got to be wary and careful about fraud still.
I guess last question, if you had to sort of put your futurist hat on here and say, these are a couple of things I see happening, whether it's the underlying technology or Bitcoin itself, happening over the next couple of years, that you're excited about.
What am I most excited about in Bitcoin? So I'm most excited about more people understanding and investing in it. I'm an investor, so in terms of the reason is I see the fundamentals. I see that it is going to be a outperforming sort of asset class. So today I have a good amount of my assets. I'm diversified, but I'm still heavy on Bitcoin. And I think the rest of the world will come to that. I think they'll understand the value of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and they'll say, hey, maybe they want that as part of their portfolio as well. So I think that's most exciting, because the thing, I've seen it for the last 13 years, and back then you would yell Bitcoin and no one knows what you're talking about. And then a few years later, it's like you yell Bitcoin and say, oh yeah, I've heard of that, but they have no idea what it is, right? They wouldn't even know how to hold it, how to invest it, how to buy it. But today, generally, most people still don't know, most people still don't own it, and many people still don't know how to buy it, right? But with the ETFs, it's making it easier. And for example, Ballet would make cold storage cards to allow people to more easily store their Bitcoin in self-custody form.
Well, Bobby, this has been a fascinating conversation. Really enjoyed the panel you were on here. Thank you so much for being here in the Money Show Las Vegas, and thank you all for watching.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
We'll be publishing more interviews and bonus episodes recorded at the Las Vegas Money Show Traders Expo, so make sure you subscribe to our channel or follow the Money Masters podcast wherever you get your podcasts.